Have you ever heard about a king who tried to single-handedly pull his entire nation back from the brink of collapse? Well, that's the story we're diving into. It's a wild ride of radical action, an ancient prophecy that's hundreds of years old, and a huge reform that, on the surface, looked like a spectacular failure. But, as we'll see, it might have succeeded in a way nobody, and I mean nobody, expected. This is the story of King Josiah. So this really is the big question hanging over Josiah's entire life, right? Can just one person, no matter how determined, actually reverse the decline of a whole nation? I mean, he inherited a kingdom that was so corrupt, so far gone, you'd think it was a lost cause. So was his fierce determination going to be enough to turn that massive tide? To really get it, we have to see just how bad things were.
Okay, so to understand just how radical Josiah's actions were, we need a before picture. And we're going to start in the most sacred place in the entire kingdom, the temple in Jerusalem.
You know, this quote here, it's a massive understatement. Grimm doesn't even begin to cover it. We're talking about the temple of Yahweh, the one true God of Israel, and it had basically been turned into a worship center and storage unit for a whole host of foreign gods. It wasn't just messy or ignored, it was actively, intentionally desecrated.
I mean, just look at this list. The scale of the corruption here is just mind-boggling. You've got sacred items for pagan gods just sitting there, an Asherah pole, a symbol for a foreign fertility goddess, right in the temple. There were even male cult prostitutes operating on the temple grounds. You had women weaving for Asherah, sacred horses and chariots for the sun god parked at the entrance, and even altars built by Josiah's own grandfather Manasseh. The whole place was, frankly, an abomination. So, what do you do if you're a righteous king and you find all this out? Well, you don't just do a little spring cleaning, you purge. Josiah unleashed one of the most radical, methodical cleansing campaigns in his nation's entire history. And his strategy was absolutely systematic and honestly ruthless. He started right at the heart of it all, the temple, and then worked his way outward. First, he had every single pagan item, symbol, and all the people associated with them thrown out. Then, he moved outside the city to destroy Tophet, this horrific site where they were sacrificing children. And finally, he marched across the entire country, tearing down these local idolatrous shrines, the high places that had been standing for centuries.
But get this, he didn't even stop at his own borders. He actually pushed north into the territory of the former kingdom of Israel and took down the rival altar at Bethel. And this is where the story gets a little supernatural. Because what Josiah did at Bethel wasn't just some political power move. Nope. It was the fulfillment of an incredibly specific prophecy, one that was made centuries before he was even born.
Just look at this timeline for a second. About 300 years earlier, that's not a typo, 300 years, a prophet shows up at this very same altar and declares that a future king by the name of Josiah would come and desecrate it. And now, here he is, centuries later, doing exactly what the prophecy said he would. It's incredible.
So how in the world do you make sense of something like that? Well, the source material points out there are really two main ways scholars look at this. The first viewpoint is that, hey, maybe the story was just written down after it happened to make it look like a divine prediction. But the other view is that God actually knows the future and can inspire these super specific predictions to accomplish his plans.
Okay, so after all that, the radical cleansing, fulfilled prophecy, you'd think this would spark a massive national revival, right? You'd expect the people to turn back to God with everything they had. But that's not what happened at all. This quote just hits you, doesn't it? It really gets to the heart of the tragedy of Josiah's story. For all the incredible things he did, he was basically a one-man show. And this right here is the critical point. The people, they just went along with it. They didn't really protest when he was tearing down all the altars, but they didn't really join in either. Their hearts weren't in it. It was all external, a top-down order that never actually changed them on the inside. So the moment Josiah died, everything just snapped right back to the way it was before. So that brings us to a huge, looming question. If the reforms didn't stick, if they didn't really change the people, and if the nation was still doomed to be conquered and sent into exile, then what was the point of any of it? Seriously, why would God raise up this amazing righteous king only for his entire life's work to basically evaporate the second he was gone? Well, according to our source material, the purpose was never actually to stop the exile. It was for something else, something much more specific. You see, the reform wasn't meant for the whole nation. It was for the faithful few, what the Bible calls the remnant.
For this small group, Josiah's actions were everything. It confirmed their faith, proved the old prophecies were true, and showed them that yes, it was possible to be courageous and live for God even in a totally corrupt culture. It was all about preparing their hearts to endure the absolute horror of the siege and exile that was right around the corner.
And this right here is the profound mental shift that Josiah's reform made possible. The faithful remnant suddenly realized their identity wasn't tied to a physical building, the temple, which was about to be destroyed anyway. No, their faith could be portable.
And that is the ultimate legacy. By pointing everyone back to the law of God, Josiah's reform completely transformed them. It forged a brand new identity, one that wasn't centered on a piece of land or a temple, but on Scripture. They became the people of the book, a people whose faith could survive losing literally everything else. So, we end up with this really thought-provoking question. Was Josiah's reform a failure because it didn't save the nation from exile? Or was it actually a profound success because it preserved that faithful remnant, the group that would carry their identity and their faith through the darkest chapter of their history? It really makes you ask yourself, what defines success? Is it about the immediate, obvious results? Or is it about the long-term, often invisible seeds you plant for the future?